And we're on. Hey, sorry about our internet today. I think it's because Florida is having really bad storms. I noticed Tara's a little glitchy, and I've been having some issues too, but I think we're going to be okay.
I think it's always a little glitchy.
Yeah,
I don't have the proper setup, but eventually
okay.
I will.
That's okay. So we're here tonight to talk about something sort of serious, and I know we always try to be very careful about how we're speaking when we're talking about these cases. So this is actually our first interview with somebody who has a missing family member. So we just want to show her lots of love and let her know that we're here for her. We'll be speaking to Jovanna tonight, who is the sister of Bianca Carrasco. And this case is really, really sad. And I wish I could reach out and give her a hug tonight right through the screen. But that's what we're here for. We're here to spread awareness for her sister. And we also have another special guest, which I'll introduce. But I'd like to bring Jovanna on. And I'm just going to add her here. Hello, beautiful lady.
Thanks for having me. You got me choked up already.
I'm sorry. I was having some
No,
trouble.
don't
If you didn't, if you didn't notice, I was having some trouble getting the words out because, yeah, I feel for you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Unfortunately, we've been in your shoes, but we were able to bring our loved one home. Unfortunately, you have not yet. And that was our biggest fear when we were going through everything. So I send lots of love to you and your family. And hopefully we can give our attention to Bianca's story, get the word out there more, and get some answers. So how about we start? You tell us about Bianca.
That's the hardest question, just because I miss her so much. She was hilarious. I mean, she was just witty. Like you could be talking about something serious, and she would come out with something outrageous that would just make you laugh. And it's like, where did you get that from? I'm like, gosh, if you were here now, you would be making me laugh. I need that. She was very determined. We didn't have the easiest life growing up, but she was always trying to overcome a situation. If it was a situation she got herself into, or if she was struggling with some pain, she just always kept pushing. She loved her children. And that was another thing that she just really, really tried to overcome, is just to be a better mom than the one, that we had. She's a wonderful nurse. I love hearing, her patients. I don't know them, but they will message me and they'll just say these amazing things that I already know about my sister. She would give the shirt off her back, to anybody. So that was my sister. She was also very stubborn, but I love her for that too.
Yeah. I love hearing that. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So before we keep going, and thank you for sharing that, I'm going to ask a very special guest named Haley Gray to join us, and you know her. I've never
got to talk to her.
Oh my gosh!
On the phone, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to talk to her. Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited then. So I'm just going to bring her in. Hello, Haley.
Hi.
Haley, you're welcome. Before we go into Bianca's case a little bit, can you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Haley Gray, and I research for multiple podcasts. And I also volunteer for Light the Way, which is how I met Nicole and Tara. And then just more recently, I've been trying to advocate for families. And one of the main families that I work with is Bianca. So I work with Jovanna and we've become close, and we're both wearing our matching
Yes, we
Bianca
are.
shirts.
I was just going to ask you about the shirts.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And it's a real honor to know Jovanna. I wish it was under better circumstances, but it's really an honor that she's let me in and let me help. And I'm just so thankful that I get to do that. And thank you for having me.
Oh, awesome. I'm so glad you guys are meeting for the first time.
It's more like seeing her face to face. She checks on me all the time. She's so amazing.
She is amazing. That's why I was like, I have to invite her on.
Yes.
Jovanna, I think I'm getting a little feedback from you. I don't know if it's your volume or
let me see if
you want to if you could turn it down just a smidge. I don't know if anybody else can hear that. Maybe it's just me.
I can hear it.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to just read a little description, kind of overall of the case that I have, so I can kind of give a little synopsis, and then I'm going to let you kind of just talk about what your experience was. And if anything is wrong, please correct me. Bianca was last seen on May 1st, 2016, near Walnut Creek Drive in San Antonio, Texas. Her husband reported they had an argument and he left with their youngest child. He claimed he saw Bianca walking down the street as he drove away. She has not been heard from since, and her phone has been off since 10:22 p.m. that night, which is unlike her. Apparently, their relationship was troubled, and her family noted her husband's controlling behavior. There have been no answers in this case, and Bianca's family and her wonderful sister here want answers. Would you say that was pretty accurate?
Pretty spot on. Yeah. Yeah.
So you told us about Bianca. How did you find out she went missing? Like, what was it like in the beginning?
I was trying to get a hold of her on Monday. It had been a rocky few days. Probably starting from that Wednesday to that Sunday. That was the day. It was a Sunday. And I wanted to check on her. I knew she was at work, so I didn't call her. I text her, and it wasn't going through. We had iPhones, and I had an iPhone. I think she had an iPhone as well. And so it wasn't going through. And I also wasn't hearing too much from him, which there's a lot of layers to the story. There's not enough time to talk about it, but I do cover it in
Were you
podcast.
sending him text messages as well, or trying to call him and contact him as well?
So I did text him and I didn't get anything back. And then I think it was around 4 o'clock. I had tried to call her and it was going straight to voicemail. And I thought that was really weird because she had never turned her phone off like that. And so I called him to try to see if he knew or, what was going on. And that is when he shared that story that they got into an altercation and she left. And I was very like confused and just saying like, but you saw her, like if somebody told you that they were walking on foot at night away from their home, especially my sister, she just wouldn't have done that. She wasn't an outdoorsy person, and she wasn't very she just would have been scared to walk in the dark. She wouldn't have done that. So it was confusing. And then he said that she probably left with someone. And then at that point, I'm just like, what do you mean she left, and who? With who? Who are these people that you think she left with? So from there, it was just craziness.
Wow.
I feel like something. Your gut intuition is telling you.
Yeah. But it's really hard.
Being confused is just that gut, like there's something missing.
Yeah. And you don't know what. I'll be honest, I didn't watch true crime. I didn't know too much about missing people or how it happens. oh, I hate to hear that this is a normal story, that when, women just go missing after a fight and their husbands say this. That is, oh my gosh, it breaks my heart. So I didn't know that. So I didn't think that immediately. I was just confused and upset that the kids were left alone. I was scared for my sister, because I couldn't get a hold of her. Her coworkers were scared also, because it wasn't like her to not show up to work. It was just a lot.
Now, when were you able to report her missing?
Tuesday.
And that was Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And she went missing
Sunday night.
Yeah.
And
did they start an investigation right away?
That was hard. So Tuesday, it was just constantly making phone calls to the right. This isn't the right number. You have to call this number. I am in Houston. She went missing from San Antonio. Being pushy, because they say an adult can walk away if they want to. And me just kind of pleading with them, saying, no, you don't understand. Something's very wrong here. She didn't just walk away. I just knew she didn't. And giving the background of what was going on in her life before she went missing, there was all these red flags. And so Tuesday night, finally, they listed her as a missing person, and that's when it just kicked off. CPS got involved. So there was a couple of things going on at the same time.
Wow.
CPS is Child Protective Services in Texas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So without
but he didn't report. Was he helpful in the investigation? Did he report her?
He didn't want me to report. He didn't want me to call the police. When they called him in front of me, they had him on speakerphone, and he lied and said that they had the wrong number. He was not wanting me to get police involved. And again, I just knew something was wrong, and I had to.
Wow. Yeah, we definitely have more questions. And Haley, I'm going to let you jump in too, because I know you know the story. I just want to say hi to everybody who's actually watching right now. So thank you so much for your support. Sorry we got off to a slow start. This is kind of an emotional thing, especially for us. So, I had to take a breath for a second, because I was like, this is hard. And I smile, but that's my my defense mechanism.
Bianca was like that.
Yeah. So thank you all of you for joining. Everybody's amazing. Haley, would you like to just kind of talk about how you kind of got involved in this case, and what your thoughts on it are since day one?
Yeah, absolutely. I also just wanted to add that I think one of the biggest red flags, and Jovanna has talked about this a lot in interviews, is that, and I'm sure you'll get into this, but Bianca's husband gave conflicting information. Like, he told Jovanna he didn't know what she was wearing when he last saw her. And then when the flyer comes out, he has a full description. And apparently at 10:30 at night, Bianca is walking around the suburbs wearing wedge heels. So it's like just red flag after red flag. And she left her car behind. Her car was paid off. If she wanted to leave, wouldn't you bring your car? So there's just really just red flag after red flag. And Jovanna, I'm glad that you brought up that you live in Houston and Bianca lived hours away in San Antonio. So I'm sure it was really hard for you logistically, because you can't just drive over there and see what's going on.
Right. That's correct.
Yeah. So
yeah, that must have been awful to be. Well, I mean, we understand the distance, but when you I guess in the beginning, when you don't know what to do and you're that far away, it's scary, and you just feel lost. I'm sure you wanted to just go save your sister, right? Figure out what was going on.
It felt like a shell shock. Like, I just felt like my hands were tied and I didn't know what to do. It was just my brain going a million different ways, and what do I do? What do I do?
Yeah.
No.
So I know for our situation, we had 4 of us to help navigate. Was it just you in the beginning navigating, trying to get her story out there? Did you try to, did you contact the media right away? Did anybody help you or guide you in any way to get her story out? I think is like the biggest issue, is that people don't know where, once your loved one goes missing, you think it can never happen to you. And obviously we know that it can happen to anyone at any point in time, but there's no way to navigate it. I guess, Haley, you have written some type of guideline on how to navigate if your loved one goes missing.
So I've written a guidebook on how creators should work with families and how families should work with creators. A guidebook on what to do when your loved one goes missing. I would love to work on something like that. It's not something that I have done, but I know like the Molly Bish Foundation has a guidebook. But that seems to be something when I talk to families, they just always say like they don't know what to do when it happens. They're especially 8 years ago, like when Bianca went missing, podcasts weren't as big back then. There wasn't as much attention on missing person cases. Jovanna, I know
was around yet when she went missing.
Yeah, so there were just limited resources. And I think, Jovanna, you talked about this recently in a podcast episode, that the first degree, and we worked on that episode together. You talked about not wanting to go to the media initially because you wanted to protect Bianca's children, which I think is also an important part of the story and kind of affected things for a while, right?
It really did. I mean, the kids were placed with me for 6 months. They were removed in an emergency situation. They were traumatized. I mean, can you imagine what a 9, 8, and 4-year-old were thinking, that their mommy, they can't find their mom. Then they're just taken from their dad. I'm their Auntie Vanna, and I have all these thoughts, but I love them, and see that they're hurting. I don't want to say too much. I don't want the media in their, bubble, and constantly thinking when I'm speaking to the news that they're going to watch it, and I love them and don't want to hurt them. It was hard. And I think at times some people, they don't know. They're back there behind a keyboard and they don't understand what this situation is like, or what it felt like. That it's, oh, I would have gone to the media and I would have. It's like, you don't know that because you weren't in this situation and you didn't have 3 little faces counting on you to find their mom and also protect them, that they were already hurting in a really scary situation. So that's a big deal. The media, and then like Haley mentioned, that I said about the advocates, and honestly, that's been the biggest blessing here in the past 2 years, is just having people come along that are like, hey, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you get this out there. Because you don't know what to do. You don't know how to contact the news. You don't know, a missing persons unit is limited. So you don't know anything about that. There's just so many different layers of a situation like this that it's just confusing.
Yeah.
I'm so
sorry.
I just want to hug you because it's just, I know how difficult. We know how difficult it is navigating. Yeah. And my heart just breaks for you.
And I hope that people watching, like, it is emotional. It's not just a story. It's not just a podcast. It's real life. This is real.
Yeah.
I think just trying to get her story out as much. I mean, I don't understand why there was no outrage either. You know what? You know, you hear so many. There's so many cases that there's no outrage. Why was there no? I mean, it's doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make
And
sense that
outrage can help put pressure on law enforcement. It really can. People, the
Right.
public can be helpful. If we do it in a respectful way, like, you know, you getting this, just keep putting her face out there, just keep talking about her. I mean, it's hopefully going to shed some light and somebody knows something.
And I honestly believe with a Season of Justice, I don't know if y'all know Kendall from Season of Justice. Haley knows. Yeah, we love her too. But that billboard, her putting that out there in the media,
Yeah.
I firmly believe that is what pressured the police to get Crime Stoppers involved. I had been begging for them to get Crime Stoppers involved for years. And that billboard put up in San Antonio, I really think that helped do that. So it is important, you know, to put your missing loved one everywhere, their face everywhere. It's exhausting, it's trying on your heart, but that's all. I mean, we're still struggling, and you still see these missing people and they pop up, and it's like, I don't know what gives. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, and it's a little over 8 years now, right?
Yeah.
That's probably feeling like a million eternities for you. That's too long.
It's long, but it makes me so sad because, you know, in San Antonio, there's a woman named Patty Vaughn, and she's been missing for 23 years. 23 years, same story. Another woman, Paulina, she's missing from San Antonio, 13 years. And it's like a awful reminder that that could be my sister. If I don't do something, you know, if I don't keep putting pressure and then having these people help me speak out, and not just for Bianca, but for other people too. It's just like, oh, this can't be okay. This story cannot be okay. That somebody's just
Yeah.
able to take someone's life and they're just, you know, that can't be okay.
Wow. Yeah. It's hard to even find words because it drives me to, I get so angry and I don't understand it. Why is this happening? And
It's
it's such a
infuriating.
cluster.
I feel like the law works for the criminals. I feel we always say this: the law works for the criminals. It does not help the victims at all. And I don't like to cop bash. I'm not trying to, you know, I know that,
Right.
but
It's been hard.
It's hard.
So hard.
Because there's so many blocks and it makes it difficult, and it's emotionally trying. And I give you so much strength for even being able to come on here and sharing her story.
Yeah, and on that note, without bashing anyone, there's some amazing law enforcement agencies around the country. But what has your experience been dealing with your sister's case specifically?
So I'm glad you brought this up because I know we chatted a little bit about it. That's been another difficult part of this. I respect our law enforcement. I respect anyone who's willing to put their life on the line for, you know, my freedom, my safety. Back the blue, love the military, all of that. That love for them, and that has also hurt because you don't realize that these amazing cops, these good cops, there's some that just aren't that good. And you look at the crime rates, and then you see, okay, well, maybe the good ones are really just overwhelmed, you know, and you take that into consideration. And they're telling you all these things, and one detective tells you one thing and the other tells you another. Lately, I mean, thankfully, I was given a phone call back this week, finally, but I was being ignored. I mean, just flat out ignored. And I mean, I spoke to that lieutenant and said, you know, they were kind of taken back. I used the word disgusted, and I said, I'm sorry, but it's disgusting. Like, I am trying to find my missing person that I love so much, and I would think you would do the same thing. You would do the same thing that I am. And how would you feel if you were being ignored by the entity that is supposed to help solve crimes? You know what I mean? I mean, that's been so hard. And I know that in this situation, there's still a way to right a wrong. So that's what I'm praying for, hoping for. It's really been difficult for me to push back. I try to hold myself with grace and be poised. It's just hard. That area is very hard.
I'm sure it is. It's hard to understand. And like you said, you want to ask them, what if it was your loved one?
Yeah.
What would you do?
And I did. I mean, I did this week. I just thought, you know.
Were there any other, I guess, I don't know if you can, any leads into finding her? Did they have anything else other than she walked?
No.
Nothing.
There was a man that she was speaking to for a little bit before. They questioned him. They cleared him, checked with his mother. I mean, he's cooperated this entire time, and would probably answer the phone if I called right now. But that's been the only other thing that we thought maybe, you know, but everything just points in another direction. And I've said it here a lot lately, but I want to be wrong. For her babies, I would like to be wrong, but I also, for her babies, need them to know that she did not walk away from them. So if somebody saw my sister last and does not want to answer questions, that's a problem, you know?
Yeah. Was it ever looked at in the last 8 years as anything more than a missing person? Was it ever considered to be a homicide investigation or anything? But because she's just
Her
missing.
case is in the homicide unit.
Okay.
That's who is investigating it.
Interesting.
In the very beginning of this, I had a homicide detective sit down with me. Thankfully, at that time, they did. Looked me dead in my face and said, "We believe that your sister is gone. We believe her husband is involved, and we believe he had help. But unless we find her body, there's nothing we can do."
But that's the tough part, is that they're not looking for.
Yeah.
And I'll be the one to say it. Jovanna doesn't need to be the one to say it. But I'll say it. They're not looking for Bianca. And that's very frustrating, because if you know that she's gone, why aren't you looking for her? Why are you letting Bianca's loved ones be here 8 years later fighting for justice? Like, why weren't they out in the media in the very beginning? You know, I know somebody that lives in San Antonio that was like, I'm not going to name them, but they were dog sitting like on the same exact street that Bianca went missing from. Did not hear about Bianca until recently. And you're just like, how are they not out there, you know, talking about this and leaving it just on Jovanna's shoulders to do this? And there's so many, you know, things that really do point to her tragically no longer being with us. And you would think that it would be enough to, you know, do something about it. But it just seems like they're just kind of waiting for Bianca her remains to magically show up somewhere. And I think that's incredibly unfair. And we've talked about this in other podcasts that Jovanna and I have worked on. but they have a lot against him, right? So his phone was turned off or his phone went off at the same exact time that Bianca's was turned off.
Right.
He left with his youngest child, who was 4, left the other 2 at home alone, traveled 5 hours away to Odessa, and
Oil
Wait,
just
fields.
what's 5 hours away, and why was he traveling to Odessa? What was 5 hours away?
Another big
We don't know that.
big red flag. He says he was traveling. He worked in the oil fields, so a lot of people will think Chris Watts in this. I've read that a lot. He actually had quit his job that he had in Odessa a little bit before she went missing. He was obsessing over what was going on in their marriage, and he quit and got a job in San Antonio. And he tells the police that he was going to work that night, but he didn't have a job there at that time.
Really? So he had no job, and he lied to police, and that's they don't
correct.
do anything more than okay. That's.
I mean, I would think you could prove that pretty easily too.
Yeah. Sounds like a really good place to start when it came to an investigation and looking for her.
Right.
But that wasn't done.
No cadaver dogs. No, I mean, I don't know.
They did do cadaver dogs at her house. They did. They searched at her house, and apparently the cars. But I just don't think they were going to find anything there.
Yeah.
Because a lot of time
passed. The time, but then I also think of if they felt like he had help based on whatever investigating they did. I don't know. That just leaves it really open. And for those who don't know, 5 hours from San Antonio to Odessa, it's a straight shot. It's down I-10, but there is nothing out there. Nothing. I mean, it's kind of scary even driving at night because there's dead spots, so you wouldn't even get cell phone service just driving in that direction. So you're just talking massive rural tumbleweed drive. I mean, yeah. And lots of oil.
Large area that they would have to search.
That's right. Yeah.
Has there been any searches conducted by private teams coming in to help?
So that's been the frustrating part. They let us search Bianca's pings, but her phone last pinged at their home. So that whole area was searched a couple of times by Texas EquiSearch. But they will not release any information for his pings. They have not searched those areas.
Yeah, that's what's needed.
Yeah. So PI couldn't even. What can they do if they're not giving the information over to? Okay. We've tried. We have tried, but
so there's no collaboration happening right now to help. Okay.
No. And they've also had
neighbors see anything. I'm sorry, Haley.
No, that's okay. I know we have a delay going on.
Yeah, so I know.
Go for it.
So did they question any neighbors if they saw anything, if they saw her walking, if they any information?
Yeah, I mean, we did. I say we. I had a little posse over there, people in San Antonio that were helping with the search, and we did ask cameras, and cameras weren't a big thing back then either. Everybody has Ring cameras now. That wasn't a thing back then. And the way that her home is, it's at the end of a cul-de-sac, not in the cul-de-sac. And it's on a main road in the neighborhood. And so that's another red flag to me, because if you were on her street, you're just thinking like somebody would have saw her. It just would be, it wouldn't have been easy for somebody not to see her where their home is located.
Or like videos from neighbors' cameras, anything like that?
No. And we asked, there was a gas station right there coming out of the neighborhood. They didn't have their cameras plugged in.
That's always
Like
what
you said.
happens.
Oh, sorry. Haley, you go.
No, that's okay. I was
Crazy.
just saying that seems to always be the situation with cameras. If they do have them, they're not operating correctly, but I think
Mhm.
just no one saw anything. And
Mm-mm.
Jovanna has talked about this in previous interviews, but like she just said, she thinks that someone would have seen something. You know, it wasn't
Yeah.
3 a.m. in the morning. You know,
Mm-mm.
it's 10:30
Right.
at night. Wouldn't you notice a beautiful woman walking down the street in wedge
And wet
heels?
shoes. Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
it's just really sad that this story has worked for, because, and like Giovanna was saying earlier, how does this story work? Like, how are so many men able to get away with this? We had an argument and she walked away. And
Yeah.
if you never find somebody's remains, then they just get off scot-free. I mean, doesn't all of the totality of the evidence, which Giovanna hasn't even scratched the surface on,
Yeah.
is that not enough?
Wait, somebody just asked a question. This is coming from Jim. Is the case considered still open? So if release certain information, I don't want to mess any of the investigation up. So I don't want to say anything like ask you a question that you can't answer. I'm sure you are fully aware of that, though.
Right. I was told this week it's still an open case.
Okay.
Okay.
Jim is my husband, by the way, so he's watching.
Just some random Jim.
It was in the back of my head, so I wanted to make sure. I mean, I always worried that I would say something that I wasn't supposed to say. You know, I don't want to put you in that corner either.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Duty Ron asks about Tim Miller at Texas EquiSearch. I think you've mentioned you've worked with them already, Jovanna.
Yes, and so Texas EquiSearch is the same kind of concept as a PI. They can only work as much as the police will let them.
Right.
And
Exactly.
they did what they could with the information they were given, and that's all they can do.
Yeah. Ron, so basically, I don't know, you came in late. Jovanna has tried to work with Texas EquiSearch. The police aren't really giving up any information to help with searching. So that's where they're at with that. Am I correct in saying it like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so.
So, yeah. So Duty Run is he works with Texas EquiSearch. That's why he was asking.
And they were amazing. They jumped right in when this happened.
Yeah.
Got their stuff out there and they did their search.
Great. That's good. That's good. Awesome.
Excuse me.
What else did I had other questions. That's what I was looking for. Somebody had asked, so I already asked about the searches. I think that was all.
I actually have another. So you said they know or they believe that someone helped him. Do you know why? I mean, if you can't answer that question, don't.
So I don't know why they think that. I would imagine it would, like for me, it would be his phone records. But maybe they've done more investigating. I would hope anyway than I know.
Okay.
Jovanna, would you want me to connect you to Duty Ron? He's got a huge platform. He's a retired detective, so he's pretty good at this.
Be awesome. That would be
yeah, he's great. And is that okay? If that's okay with you, Ron, put it in the chat and I will connect you guys via email and then you could set something up. And
thank you.
Yeah, because no, when we were going through all this, we went on his show and he's just a great guy. So I highly recommend. He said yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, I'll do it.
Thank you.
So I know we don't want to keep everybody for all night. So, but I would like to kind of wrap it up with, and I'll start with you, Haley. What can people do to help Bianca's case? Like, how can they help? Just regular old people.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways. I think the number one way is just to share Bianca's flyer, which you can find. Jovanna and Bianca's friend Julie, they run a Facebook page called Help Find Answers for Bianca Carrasco.
Mm-hmm.
And they post updates on there, and that's a really great way to have the flyer on there. Just sharing Bianca's story. Jovanna and Julie both have done quite a few podcasts that are out there, and they do a great job explaining what happened. I'm not trying to like just plug this one show because I've actually worked on multiple episodes, but Jovanna and Julie both just did an episode of The First Degree, and Jovanna went through the story from like start to finish, and
That's a great show. Yeah.
And her audio clips are included. So that's a really great place, I think, to learn the basics of the story. Like Jovanna was saying earlier, there's so many layers that it's really hard to even cover in like an hour. I think that episode ended up being like an hour, 10 minutes, and it only scratched the surface. But that's a really great place to learn about Bianca and also about her, what Jovanna has been through. And it also gets into Jovanna and Julie have put together a timeline because they've kind of had to do their own investigation because the police haven't been doing very much. And they put together a really great timeline that just really points to Bianca's husband's involvement, and they're doing so much. And yeah, so I think those are just really easy ways, and I think a lot of people don't realize how much just sharing a flyer helps, because just putting Bianca's face out there is so important. And also just commenting on things and letting Jovanna know that she's not alone and that we're all fighting for answers with her, I think is just so important. So those are just some free ways you can help.
Thank you so much, Haley. Jovanna, is there anything that you would ask of people to help?
I would add to what Haley just mentioned. Our Facebook, our TikTok, TikTok's a big thing right now. I'm trying to figure Twitter out, Instagram. Julie runs the Instagram and the TikTok. I run the Facebook and the Twitter, and we kind of tag team that in the best ways we can. Sometimes we're sitting there for hours just commenting, underneath posts, because it's the algorithms of the internet of, okay, are people going to see this? That's been tricky to figure out. I don't know how on earth to get this on national news. We did News Nation. I need all the help with just people being loud, because there has not been enough pressure, clearly. And I think the police, and I think maybe her husband or whoever is responsible, thinks this is going to go away. It's not going to go away. And so I just would like to help to apply more pressure in that way. Social media is a big way to do that. Sharing her flyer. I mean, anything. I really try to make my posts personal so that people know what they're doing. Like, what does this mean to me? What does Bianca mean to her children? And try not to just pass it by. And then I would encourage people, don't just pass a missing person flyer by. That's someone, you may not know them, but somebody loves and misses them, and they're just as important as the next one, so just share. Even if you don't want it on your timeline, do it in your story, so yeah, that's what I would say.
That is perfect. Perfectly well said. And I agree with everything you said. So thank you everyone for coming on. I'm going to connect you to Ron, because he's really great. And I think we just got to keep putting her out there. I tried to connect. I was going to put up her photo while we were talking, and it just wasn't working for me. But we do have her on our platform already, and we've shared. So
thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, check out Gabby Find the Missing. Yes, and go to on Facebook, Help Find Answers for Bianca Carrasco. It's their page, and you can literally Google her name and just put her out there, share her flyer. Keep putting the pressure on. We want to help you. So,
thank you for having me, and thank you for having the strength to help other people. That means a lot to me, and that's also really helps to keep going. So thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you,
Haley.
Haley, thank you so much. We adore you. So we'll probably do this again.
Yes.
All right, ladies, you have a wonderful evening.
You too. Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.